Welcome to STAR Goal Setting. This video will allow teachers to be able to access the goal setting feature within Renaissance. This is a helpful function of Renaissance in setting goals that will help support student progress from the beginning of the year to the end of the year in our district benchmarks. The goal setting feature is in the STAR record book, and we will be able to view status of these goals by using the record book along with the STAR progress monitoring report and also the goal history report found on the report landing page. We welcome you to open up your Renaissance landing page and navigate along with us today. When we look at setting goals with STAR, we understand that at the very beginning of the year, students are administered the STAR benchmark. From there, we are able to set goals for each individual student for each subject. Following that process that we will learn today, it's important to understand and think about how you will discuss and share those goals with students, allowing them time to reflect on their past test performance, what that environment was like when they tested, and how can they take their score and move it forward. From there, you'll be providing your instruction day to day and administering those formative assessments, monitoring the student progress along the way. Those assessments that are administered daily, weekly, or end of unit, so your classroom formatives, classroom summative assessments, will then support that big picture in moving the student forward in their mastery and be able to see that on their performance and growth when they take the STAR assessments again. After we are able to capture their second round of STAR data, it'll be analyzing that data. There is always room to celebrate, and then identifying additional supports that are needed per student and per group. We will begin by accessing our landing page in Renaissance, and for this key report that we will be looking into, you have two options. You may click on your STAR tile and be able to select on Manage Goals and Benchmarks, and that can be done either in the Renaissance Next view, or you can go in through our legacy mode. The legacy mode are our blue tiles that we often see. If you have an accelerated reader product, your screen probably looks more so like the one on the top. So however you want to navigate there, we are going to be selecting on Manage Goals and Benchmarks when you go into that STAR Reading or STAR Math tile. You can also get to this location from the record book, and in the top of the record book, there will also be an area where you can select Manage Goals and Benchmarks. Once you are in, your screen will look like this, and it allows you to set a goal. This will be for the first time you set the goal. You will select your class that you want to view, and then select all students by selecting these buttons here. So set a goal, and then select the class that you would like to set the goals for. As a time saver, in that last drop down, selecting all students at one time does make it a little bit easier when you go back and you refine if there is a student that needs a goal adjusted. So we do recommend setting all of your student goals at one time and then going back and revising if needed. We will take you through that process today. One of the questions you're going to see when it pops up in a drop down is you will be asked to select the goal type for the goal. And from here, we'll be able to see several different options: scale score, percentile rank, and SGP. Our recommendation here is for kindergarten through 8th grade, selecting that scaled score option. The scale score not only provides a very attainable, tangible goal for that child, giving them a number that they are shooting for by end of year, but also it is calculated based on growth. So in that respect, we are actually providing them with a scale score goal, and it is based on growth, so you're kind of hitting two birds with one stone. This is done in math and in reading, and you may select the goal type in the drop-down function. Your screen should now look like this. As you select that goal type, it expands your view, and now you have several other checkboxes that need to be marked. Let's talk about those options. For today's experience, we are setting a goal for an annual, a whole school year. So we're going to pick the 24-25 school year. That is our current school year that we're in right now. And then you would title it with annual math goal or your annual reading goal. Again, making reference that that goal is for the entire school year. If you decide to use this function for a shorter period of time or for a specific MTSS purpose, just be aware that the name of that goal does print on student progress reports, and so we do want to be mindful when we title that. We're going to select STAR Enterprise Test. Those are the assessments that we use for our STAR benchmarks and the other additional assessments if you have added them in at your school site. We're going to select the goal calculation as moderate. Moderate here is 50 student growth percentile, that's the SGP, and what that is telling us is that students are then, our goal for our students is to score above 50% of other students that have similar test performance to their last score. And so again, it's comparing them to their academic peers. It allows us to set goals for all of our students and being able to see that growth. As we've learned in Renaissance, having a 50 student growth percentile rank does allow students to be able to move about 1 year's worth of growth in 1 year's time. And so this is where we are going to start all of our goal setting by clicking on this moderate goal feature here, and then you would hit apply. At any point in time throughout this process, if you have questions on these different goal features, depending on the goal that you are setting, there is a little wizard off here to the side that helps you set those goals along the way. There's also a help article at the very top, and then also through these little informational buttons that are provided for you. Once we hit apply on that screen, we will be able to see a list of all of our students and their scores. From here, we can see their latest scaled score depending on what time of year it is, and we can also then see what the system is presenting us with as far as a goal calculation based on our selection. So we asked for it to be based on a 50 SGP and provided back to us in a scale score amount. So student 1 is currently at 1087. The goal for them would be to move to a 1096. And then from there we can see a column where if we needed to edit, then we would be able to manually enter a scale score number in that third column. We'll get to that in just a moment. There's also a last feature that allows you to share a graph, and this is just a quick view in setting goals. It gives you just a little additional guidance, and this is the example of when we click on that little graph icon. It allows the teacher to be able to view where the student currently is. That is the big black a dot that's there on the left-hand side, shows you their trend line in black, and then you see a variety of different colors. We have selected moderate goal for this student, and so we can see based on that orange track line where that child would continue to grow if we keep them at a moderate goal setting, which would be that 50 SGP. If we felt that the student could stretch their goal up and be able to get to the proficiency category, then we could indeed select ambitious for this child with that 75 SGP. This information also provides the teacher with the average scale score amount that they would need to gain each week. Again, we know that scale scores are based on item difficulty and correct responses, meaning we can't exactly say that means that you need to get 2 more questions correct. No questions are weighted equally, and so this little point of reference is really just to help support the teacher in knowing what the growth would need to be for these students, trying to break down that larger point growth into smaller chunks for them. When we are looking at those goal setting components, we can take into account additional considerations, such as by the end of the year, if I have a student who is working their way towards a proficiency cut score, and I feel that that is an attainable piece for that student, then I can look at what is the cut score for that grade, for that subject by end of year. We have that available for you on our assessment website. By clicking on STAR Benchmarks, logging into staff resources, you will see an icon that's in the shape of Arizona. This allows you to see the 3rd grade through 8th grade cut scores. If you teach grades K through 2, your cut score is really that 40th percentile rank. So for those grades, it's just really making sure that you're moving them in their scale score, and then we would track their percentile. Now let's get back to the Arizona cut scores for our grades 3 through 8. Let's walk through a scenario together. I have pulled up the cut scores for end of year from the assessment website. And from here, I know that I have a 5th grade student who has a STAR reading goal set as 1040 based on my goal setting feature that I just set. Well, I can see that based on our cut scores, the students actually really need to meet 1043 by the end of the year to reach that proficiency level. I follow across fifth grade, I look at the STAR reading chart, and I can see they need to get to 1043. So for this student situation, I know that I can bump the student up a little bit more. I know I can stretch this child, and so I am going to create their goal at 1050. That would allow them to clear that cut point. We do want to be cautious. We don't want them just barely on that line. And so by stretching their goal up, I feel that the student can do that and will be able to be safely proficient by end of year. So from there, I would then jump back into my goal setting feature and edit in the space provided. So again, I jump back into Renaissance, I have this view, and I would be able to edit in that third column as needed. When I'm finished and I feel that my goals are set, I can then select Save Goals. Now I'm back on that main reporting page, so we can either see our goals again from the record book, or when I'm on that star tile, I can select Manage Goals and Benchmarks and be able to view the screen. Now, earlier today, we went to set a goal. We don't need to set a goal because we already created one. So for this situation, I can go down here to the bottom of the screen, and all I need to do is select this little tiny caret arrow that is to the left of that scale score unified goal. When I do that, it opens up the page, and then I can see all of my students for that goal, and from here I can then identify their goal status. Throughout the year, we'll be able to see if that status is in progress, achieved or not achieved. It will then over time develop into different goal statuses and so forth, depending on if the child has taken their next assessment. And throughout the year, I can also jump in, and to the right-hand side, you'll see the option to edit student goals by each individual student. And so for this portion here, I would be able to, for instance, increase a goal. If a child met their end of the year goal by middle of the year, of course we're going to celebrate, and then we might decide to raise that goal up a little bit higher. At that point, perhaps I select to be moderately ambitious and set it at the 65, or I could be ambitious and set it at a 75, or again, I can use those cut scores to help make that determination. All right, another great way to be able to view a total overview of student performance and their goals all together on one page is in a new report that we're featuring called the STAR Student Progress Monitoring Report. This report allows us to do several different options. The first one is to be able to include a custom date range. So when you are in this report from Renaissance, back to that report landing page, we can select date range and make sure you click on the term custom. The default for the system is the current school year would be blue, and you just want to look right above that feature and click on the word custom. From there, you're able to use the little calendar widget that allows you to put in dates. From here, I found it helpful to put in a 2-year time span. This allows me to see how that student did not only at the beginning of my classwork this year, but then also how did they perform last year as well. It'll also show multiple goals over the years so that if the student is meeting or not meeting their goals, I know what their track is and if they're meeting that trajectory. From this report, as you can see, it plots their points based on their performance levels. That's where you see the colored dots come into play. You can see the months of which they tested. You see a black trend line that pops up once the student has several assessment history data points, and that is basically just calculating up the trend of their movement from beginning and where the trajectory is landing them. We also, now that we set goals, we see a yellow line starting where we put that goal in place. In this report, it's termed as the intervention line. And it also now, with that goal setting feature, allows us to see that blue star and the blue track line of where that student currently is, and based on their goal, where are they headed. So also taking into consideration these progress reports, if you see any need to go back and revise those goals, again, you can do so through the record book or selecting Manage Goals. This report also houses a small table that allows you to see what their goal is currently set at, as well as their assessment history. So again, all in one place. It also includes the growth rate in between assessments, a lot of information for you all in one place. So the next step would be, we know we are able to set goals for students and we can see the progress reports. So the next question is, how and when will you share these goals with your students? And in addition to that, what opportunities do you provide that allow your students time to reflect on their test performance? Also considering, now that we have goals, how can we really support the intentional decisions based on our data in our day-to-day standards-based instruction? So how will we really be measuring their progress along the way? Is it through our formative assessments? Yes. Is it through our classroom summative assessments? Yes. And so just making sure that we monitor how the students are doing, as well as including the students in monitoring their own learning as well. So again, working through that entire process from start to finish. As soon as they take that first STAR benchmark assessment, we can start setting goals, and then it's just that constant loop of being able to share those goals out with the students, gaining insight from them on their test performance, and then developing that action plan. Additional supports and information are found on our CUSD Research and Assessment website, such as our understanding of CUSD assessments for families. We also have a balanced assessment framework specific for our benchmark tests. Over here on the right-hand side, you see a list of all of our different assessment types that we have here in Chandler Unified School District. Today we focused on our benchmark assessment, on our STAR assessment, setting goals in that feature. However, we know that everything works together to support one another. So even though those goals are set as mentioned in our STAR benchmarks, we do know that the work that the teacher does in and out of their day-to-day on their formative assessments, and then from the student end, the teacher end, their classroom summative, all of that progress made by that student then should be reflected in their benchmark scores. If you have any additional questions or needs for supports, please reach out to our assessment team through our help ticket or give us a call at any time. We are here to support you on your STAR journey.